Again, the philosophical difference is the Congresswoman has just said that she believes in the federal government funding and opportunities to create jobs, and I think it's better served that the private sector has. You know, the Congresswoman decides to refer to herself as jobs, 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 Betty Sutton. I've seen that everywhere. Now, today was the first time I've heard of some jobs. She said 2,000. I guess that turns out to be about a net 5,800, given the fact that her vote on the bailout, that again, we've yet to have heard who she was with last night. It's not some stage theater, folks. Fifth Avenue is where she was. She changed her vote on the bailout, and changing that vote on the bailout helped allow National City Bank to basically be one of those sick banks. You talk about universal health care. I guess the Treasury Secretary has the unilateral ability to fix the healthy bank, or take the healthy banks, but not help the sick banks.
Okay, Mr.
National City Bank's one of them.
All right. Now it's time for our final question. You both have 3 minutes to respond. And I do believe Congresswoman Potter, or Congresswoman Sutton, excuse me, I was so afraid that was going to happen, and there it was. Thank you very much.
I think that's a compliment.
All right. Congresswoman Sutton, you'll be first. Excuse me. So the judgment of congressional representatives is tested with just about every vote. And so this question is specifically about that. Tell us about a time when your judgment was tested in crisis. And specifically, what do you want us to appreciate about your judgment? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Am I answering here?
You can come right up there.
Thank you so much. I think the obvious moment of crisis is the economic challenge that we're facing. When there were those out there who said they didn't see the economic trouble coming, I said, really? Because we in Ohio have been feeling it for a long time. And as the administration came over and they put this proposal that was no questions asked, just give us this money and we're going to put this out there because we need to unfreeze credit, it was an important moment for important judgment. And I looked at the proposal. There were not enough provisions for oversight. There were no restrictions on the authority. And so working within our caucus and leadership, you know, they made some improvements. They put some oversight provisions in there, and there were some mechanisms for recoupment that were added. But it still wasn't enough. And when the bill came to the House floor, the reality was it was just still woefully lopsided. It was aimed so directly at Wall Street, and it had an effect, obviously, on those of us on Main Street, but it was a trickle-down kind of effect. And so in that moment, knowing that the bill would come back again, because I know that because I have some experience that leads me to know that, I voted no, but that's not where I stopped. I went to work immediately, working to make sure that not only that this bill would be improved so that we had those tax extenders that protect middle-class families throughout the 13th district, from 58,000 of them, from an additional 2,000 plus tax increase in the next year, as well as those incentives for alternative energy. We had all of those changes put into the bill. I had discussions with Senator Barack Obama, who made it clear that he will make sure that the taxpayers are made square in the course of this deal. And I worked with congressional leadership as well to secure commitments from them and Senator Obama that we would have a strategy, not just this bill, but a strategy at revitalizing our economy that doesn't just focus on this one action directed at Wall Street, but would focus on, as I say, aim squarely at the middle class and restoring the promise of the middle class. So that would be an example of how one can take the moment and make sure that they're doing at every step of the way everything they possibly can to look out for the interests of those they represent. And so the mission continues. This story isn't over. We have, and that's the beauty of being a legislator who understands that process, because I know that my work continues today and it will continue tomorrow to try and restore the promise of the middle class. Thank you.
Congresswoman Betty Sutton, thank you. David Potter. The question again, yes, about your judgment, a time when your judgment was tested and what it reveals specifically that you want us to appreciate about how you make decisions.
Thank you for the question. Obviously, my answer is going to be more around my private life because I have not held an elected office. But I would say in the business life of the healthcare industry, just like many areas in business, including on Wall Street, as we've seen the excesses there, I work in a high-profile area where sometimes you are asked to do some things by your corporate management that is a little bit less than above board. And in one time, and I won't go into the specifics because I don't have enough time, but with one company I worked for, I chose that it was not worth my time staying at that company any longer if it was going to involve being less than forthright with my customers, surgeons, hospital management included. So I'm very proud of that. I believe that as a parent, I try to instill those values in my 3 children. It's, again, not what's happening when they're looking at you, it's what's happening when they're not looking at you, and I take great pride in my parents raising me on that. Again, I have concerns with what the Congresswoman does say. I do want to make it very clear. I'm not sure what she was exactly getting at as far as me sending people to an activity. I'm not at all familiar with. Happy to talk offline about that. I'm sorry that the Congresswoman takes my remarks today as attacks. I take them as opportunistic of wanting to serve the people of the 13th District. That district includes Lorraine County, Summit County, parts of Medina County, parts of Cuyahoga County. I can tell you that my own mayor in Strongsville, Mayor Persiak, has never spoken to Congresswoman Sutton in the 2 years that she's held office. The same could be said about Mayor Ruby. The same could be said on a much lighter level by the mayor of Avon Lake, the mayor of Cuyahoga Falls, the mayor of Norton. All these folks have made it very clear to me when I've been out there that because of their political colors, they never talk to the Congresswoman. But the bottom line is, folks, it's the company who you keep. And I still have yet to understand why in the world last night a Congresswoman from the 13th District of Ohio finds the need to be out on Wall Street, raising money against someone like me who really is not forging a huge financial campaign. You know, is she truly representing the interests of the 13th District, or is there some bigger and better vision? And I believe that Republicans, Democrats alike, that we have people in special interests that have bought and paid for our congressional leaders. And I think it's time to put a stop to that. I think it's time to bring people that have an understanding of what it's like to be in the middle class, to actually be in the middle class. I hear us talk about restoring the middle class, yet the votes just don't go with it. So I guess I'll end my comments by saying one other interesting endorsement that the Congresswoman got was with the Sun-Times. And I know she's got a good group of supporters in here, so you won't find it any surprising. But in that endorsement, they said, Mr. Potter's never run for a congressional office. He's a little in over her head. I would argue that I believe that the wool's been pulled over all of our heads, not just with this Congresswoman, but all of our members of Congress. And there is going to come a time where that wool is going to be removed. I thank you so much. You can go to my website, www.potterforcongress.com. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank David Potter, Republican for the 13th Congressional District, and incumbent Democratic Congresswoman Betty Sutton. Thank you very much for being a part of today's debate. I now hand it over to Executive Director Jim Foster.
So thank you again. Today at the City Club, we've been listening to a debate between David Potter and Betty Sutton, candidates for Ohio's 13th Congressional District. Thank you, candidates, and a special thank you to our moderator, Dan Moulthrop, and 90.3. Thank you, audience. This forum is now adjourned.